Welcome to Masters of Product Management, a show that gives you real-world techniques and cutting-edge strategies to learn, apply, and succeed in product management. Now, here's the master himself, Stephen Haines.
Every company that I've worked in, and I don't know, I guess you can all relate to this, would have reorgs. At least twice a year, there would be some kind of a reorg, and I'd always get new bosses. I think there was one time in my career where I had 3 bosses in 2 years. Now, product managers, like other employees, but we know that reorgs don't stop. But in our business, we have to keep things moving along, and that's really, really important. And that sometimes we get so incredibly busy that we don't even step back to realize, again, that maybe we should be thinking about doing some things differently. And we get this new boss, they come in, and then they start creating this whole new product management structure sort of in their own image. And maybe there's some good things about it and maybe not so good. It really just depends on the situation. And I believe that we all have some kind of a role to play. There, specifically, the newer managers or product managers coming into the company new or coming in from another area, they certainly have a responsibility to figure out how things work, things going on in the organization, the products, the portfolio, culture, strategies, processes, all kinds of stuff. And we as product guys have a responsibility to help get those new bosses up to speed and be fairly aware or cognizant of how they do what they do and really sort of just get to a common plane. Now, this is a topic that I've had with many, many leaders, or at least a conversation. And I was recently speaking with my friend and colleague, Jerry Caron. And Jerry he's the chief product officer at a company called Izotope, Izotope. And he has had other product leadership roles. He's been at OtterBox, at Bose, at iRobot. Love those. And we were discussing this phenomenon recently, and it became very, very clear to me that we have a lot that we can do to make things better, both from the top down and the bottom up. And I'd really like to welcome Jerry to the show today and have that conversation. So welcome, Jerry.
Thanks, Stephen. It's great to be here.
I'm glad that you came to the show. And really, I think that the context that you can provide for us and these listeners is really critical. So the first thing that I'd like to ask you to talk about is from the point of view of a new product management leader coming into a company or, again, transferring perhaps from another area, what should that person look for and what should they do to figure things out and get that lay of the land?
That's a great question. For me, it always starts with a whole lot of listening, right? You're in there, you're just stepping in. Before you can make solid decisions, you really need to know what's going on. And so I tend to focus on 4 particular areas when we start somewhere. First is business, next customer, product, and team. So these are 4 areas that if I understand these well, I think I can really help out the organization. And so from a business perspective, oftentimes I'll go to the head of finance, whoever that might be, who I'd be working with on a regular basis. I'd sit down with them and really work through the numbers of the business. What's going on? What portion of the business is the division, let's say, that I'm working in? How do we make our numbers? How are they calculated, et cetera? What do the margins look like? And then I also meet with, I go on sales calls to the extent that I can to meet with like resellers, distributors, anyone that's associated with business. And I want to get out there as soon as possible because I don't want to be in a position to have to answer questions when I'm out there. I want to come in and say, look, I'm new. I'm just trying to understand what's going on. Tell me all about what it is to sell our product, to distribute our product. I also focus on understanding more about the product. Obviously, you can't really manage it unless you understand it well. So I'll sit down with the engineers, a very patient engineer who can walk me through the guts. And this is for a technology company. But it could be equally the same thing for, let's say, a financial company where you want to get together with the actuaries or whoever might be involved in the business. Really understand the nuts and bolts of the product and use the product as well. I'll take product home, or if it's software, I'll use it on my computer. Then I want to get together with the product managers and with the marketing team to really understand what's going on with the customer, what's going on with the marketing strategy, the competitive landscape. how do we stack up against the other products in the market? What do customers say about us on the websites? I'll sit in customer interviews to understand how customers think about us and our products, and do we have a strong brand? And I'll meet with the marketing team and really pick their their brain on branding, on communications, and things like that. And then finally, I spend a lot of time with the team. I want to understand, and really understanding the team. So I'll talk with the team to understand what they're dealing with, what has worked well, what hasn't worked well. I'll meet with the executives to understand what has worked well, what hasn't worked well, my peers, other peers of the product managers, and very often consistent themes come out that you can then act upon to improve the overall function.
As you're talking, I was scribbling some notes down. As a person who's a product leader, and we expect our product managers to have these leadership characteristics. These are all things that any product person, regardless of level, ought to know about to just understand the lay of the land, right? I mean, that's what you're really saying, is you got to just understand it up and down and across.
That's correct. As the voice of the product and the voice of the customer, you need to understand all of these things. You need to represent them. That's the only way to really drive alignment across the organization.
Well, that's true. And I think also by doing that, you're setting the tone by modeling that behavior. Now, as you've learned some lessons along the way, what then should product managers take from this? I know that you're going to model it, but sort of how do you transfer this so that they really do model this and sort of reflect what it is that should be the better in class way of doing things?
Yeah, that's another great question. A lot of it is situational. When I typically, when I come into a new company and take a look around, typically there's a reason for the reorganization. There was a need for change. There was a need for improvement. And in my experience anyways, I tend to see some pretty common shortcomings that show up. So some examples might be, you find that decisions have been made in hallways and on informal emails, and that there are people saying that they're out of the loop or that they've been surprised by changes in products. Other things you might hear are product managers saying, "Hey, I don't know what the financial implications are of these decisions I'm making. I don't know how much we made in revenue last year. I don't know the margin of the product." Finance hasn't found it worth their time to create product reporting for the product managers. And sometimes you even see that, and you can see this in newer product managers too, they sometimes end up acting like order takers where they've been disenfranchised. So instead of really driving alignment, they're going to the different teams and saying the professional equivalent of, "Do you want fries with that?" Right? They're just with their notepad saying, "Okay, well, engineering says it needs to be this and market says it needs to be that," and just kind of doing the lowest common denominator instead of really driving the discussion. And the end result is they can actually end up feeling disenfranchised, unappreciated, misunderstood.
Masters of Product Management is brought to you by Sequent Learning. Sequent Learning provides real tools for success in product management, strategy, and marketing. Find out more at sequentlearning.com. That's sequentlearning.com.
Is that a cultural thing? And because is it they're a byproduct of the environment in which they work, or is it something that they just don't get? And the reason I'm asking this is because many of our listeners are individual contributor product managers, and I believe many of them are also aspirational product executives.
Yes.
So how do we reconcile this?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a combination of things. Sometimes it is to the person. Other times it is cultural. Other times it's due to the leadership. So for instance, if you're in a company where let's say it's a smaller company, or even in some cases large companies where the founder is still there and they pretty much made every decision on product up to that point, they're going to want to be involved. And unless you can form that common bond with them, that what I call the mind meld with them as a product manager, they'll basically start telling you what to do. And your job is to, in essence, take their idea and put it on a piece of paper and get it into the system so that everyone else can develop that thing, right? So there's a bunch of things that you can do to actually end up, if you're not, let's say you're not the manager, but you're helping helping to establish the manager, there's a number of things you can do that will help them establish themselves and make for a stronger function.
That's a good thing. I'd love to hear.
Yeah. One thing is, it's so critical to the job to build cross-functional awareness and alignment when it comes to new products. And so supporting initiatives like a phase gate process, getting something set up so that you actually have phase gates instead of decisions being made over emails and telephone calls. Encouraging having weekly updates or biweekly updates depending on the product on, when you're developing a new product, what's going on, getting the team together, including the broader cross-functional organizations to tell them what the status is with programs. Help your leader get that established and make sure that you're doing, a top-notch job in getting that up and running. Spend time with your finance representative to understand the business. Ask them about why the numbers are what they are. Show an interest in this. And the more eager the product managers are to get financial information, the more likely the finance team will support that. And once you have that information, you can do a much better job of turning the business around if it's headed in the wrong way, or just making it grow more quickly. And I mentioned earlier the mind meld. I think it's really important. If you have a key leader in the company who is the strong, let's say it's a technical company, is a strong product leader, which has been my situation many times, spending enough time with them discussing the products so that you can internalize what their vision is, and then they begin to build a trust in you and understanding how you think about products, so that you can make decisions on their behalf, thinking as if you were that leader. And that's going to resonate with them. They're going to understand, hey, this person is always making the kind of calls that I would make on products, and that will strengthen the organization. It'll make you a stronger product manager in the eyes of management.
Looking for resources and best practices in product management? Just go to sequentlearning.com to gain access to real-world tools that can make a difference. It's all there at sequentlearning.com.
To sort of wrap this thing up, or wrap it around, let's say there was a new person interviewing, literally coming from the outside of a company, interviewing for, let's say the role like chief product officer or something like that. What advice would you give that person?
There's a few key questions that you have to ask and really understand, internalize the answers to them. And I think the first one is, I think it's a great idea to speak to the most senior level person within the organization where you will be working. So maybe it's the CEO in a smaller company, or it's the general manager of the division in a larger company, and talk to them about their understanding of product management, and how they think about the role. Do they believe that it's important to have a product management led or guided organization, or do they believe it's that's best left up to somebody else? If they product management, you're going to have easier time getting to where you need to be as a product manager. And if they don't view the role seriously, it's more of a challenge. Some other things is I would speak to the head of marketing, again, the most senior marketing person within your organization. As you know, sometimes there's overlap between the product management role and a pure marketing role. And it's important to understand where they see that line being drawn. So oftentimes you'll see there'll be role confusion over who owns the customer, who comes up with the product ideas. Whereas, I would say anyone comes up with product ideas. I actually don't care about that. What I care about is that the best product makes it to the customer regardless of where it comes from. But people may want to own that. So understanding those aspects of marketing and product management that overlap, to see where that head of marketing is thinking, is that fit? Because if there's a lot of overlap, you're going to have more challenges. Yeah. And then finally, I'd say understand. I ask everybody when I interview in new companies, is the company marketing led? Is it sales led? Is it engineering led? What is there a department that's leading it? And general, I would say if to everybody says that it's sales led, you really need to think carefully in that situation about how successful you'll be.
I have to tell you, when I'm listening to you, and I've been taking some notes as we've been going along, and I think True to what we're trying to talk about today is what are things like key enablers of product management success? And I think that that's what we're driving to. And if there are some things that I've been able to take away from this conversation, you say in the beginning, how do you, figure out what's going on as a new PM leader? And you talk about business and customer and product and team. And I think about this ecosystem of the company and of the business, right? And then let's abstract this for a second and say, well, who are these people? Whether you're an individual contributor or a middle level person or an executive level person in a product organization, we always talk about this sort of this mini CEO mindset, right?
Yes.
And this idea behind this, it's not the fact that you're not a CEO, but this mindset. This is big picture thinking. This is strategic. This is about leadership. This is about learning situationally. It's about communicating. It's about building culture and evolving culture and being proactive. And these are the things that I think are vital to the support and success of product management up and down and across the organization. And if we can get everybody to understand what this means, I think that product management can take its rightful place inside of any organization and lead cross-functionally the way we intend it to be. And with that, Jerry, I really have to thank you for inspiring us and helping us see more clearly about these enablers of product management success. And I hope you've taken a couple of really great tidbits from this, and we'll see you next time on Masters of Product Management.
This has been Masters of Product Management with Stephen Haines, but it doesn't end there. Just visit sequentbusiness.net to gain access to all of our shows and subscribe. That way you'll never miss an episode. It's all there at sequentbusiness.net. We'll talk to you next time on Masters of Product Management. Learn, apply, and succeed. Sequentlearning.com